From this point forward, the moving vlogs get pretty sporadic in terms of what I was actually recording. A lot of my time was spent at home, and so my dad was coming in during his off time to build the vents, cut the holes in them for the flex duct that's being run, start wrapping them, and assembling the HVAC unit that's going in place. We had a lot of custom parts we had to build on top of actually assembling the ducts and things like that. Again, we're doing all of this ourselves. We're not hiring people, so things get a little weird. And again, my dad was doing this a lot when I wasn't here. Meanwhile, we're at home trying to pack and get things ready. My baby was learning to crawl, which was pretty wild. And so I don't have a ton of footage of this, so we're actually going to speedrun this and just show you some of the cool stuff that we were doing while building the HVAC stuff, because a lot of people in the comments have already disagreed with the decision to do it this way, but it's pretty cool that we were able to do this. So this looks a little funky at this point in time, but we have the two pieces of the actual HVAC unit, the whole cut where it's going to set and pump up into the attic, and then my dad built this custom shroud to get, you know, the rest of the air, because we don't have the rest of the parts for the original unit, a custom shroud to pump the air from the unit across the coil into the attic, where it's then going to split off into the two main columns of hard duct. So we got that piece together, mudded up with this duct sealing mud and insulated, and then put up into the attic, dropped down here, ready to go. So then we have to secure it in place with this part. That was the funky looking one. And then we have to build basically a big rectangle that branches up off of the unit to go there. So we got some clamps to bend everything. We got a bendy tool that I left at Home Depot and had to go back and get and awkwardly ask for back. And we start bending a lot of sheet metal. Now this is not fun to work with. I ended up bending quite a bit myself as well, and it will tear up your hands big time, but boy is it durable. Here you can see the ductwork that we insulated. We just got some roll-up insulation that we then taped over. Pretty standard stuff. But then of course we had to add the basically right angle adapters that the flex duct would connect to. Those kind of go in and clamp to the circular holes, and then we had to use the duct mud, I forgot what it's exactly called, to seal up where they connected so that there's no air leaks, because you're gonna have a lot of air pushing through and you want to make sure it gets through to all the vents. So we had to seal up all of the air gaps and basically make it as airtight as possible with this goopy stuff that got everywhere. So I'm pretty glad that we ended up doing it before we actually put carpet in. This took a while. All right, here you can see the kind of flex duct that we were using. This is this like snaky stuff. It looks like a sandworm when it comes out of the dirt coming out of the box ready to go. We have everything insulated and sealed up, ready to put in, and we have the column of sheet metal hung down from the ceiling. And we have since taken out the old heater unit. It weighed like 300 pounds. My dad's a beast and was able to hold it. I can't even imagine. We got that out. And then we get some of the coolest footage I have of the entire moving vlog, which is my iPhone put up here in ultra wide mode as I'm literally climbed up inside of the vents for us to seal it up. So we've been inserting through the attic the longer hard rectangular duct that we're connecting to this little shroud we put in the attic. We had to cut holes in it after we put it up in there, and then put in the rectangular ducts that then all of the flex duct, you know, comes out of. And then from there, I had to be inside there to screw it in with the self-tapping screws, and then start taping it up, and then putting the goopy, sealy stuff up there, you know, over all of that, so that we didn't have any air leaks. And I mostly just have a couple hours of footage of this. By this point, it is December 5th. That's when most of this was pretty much done. I just have hours of footage of me up in here like John McClane, and sometimes we pass some stuff back and forth to each other through the vents, which is pretty wild. But just up here screwing everything together, getting it all taped up and gooped up, and honestly it was weird and it was exhausting, like really rough on my legs after the fact. Being up on the ladder angled like that, I kept hooking my kneecaps up under one of the steps on the ladder because it made me feel more stable, and then suddenly they were super tender and bruised after the fact. Who knew? I did. But once that was done and we had those sealed up, then we just had to add the flex ducts on top of those, which my dad was also doing in the attic as I was working on these. And it went fairly smoothly. Like, this was a long, tedious process. This was probably one of the longer days that I spent or that we spent rather, working on the garage in terms of like focusing on one thing other than paint. Especially the house paint was the longer part of that. But like we were usually doing a lot of stuff like cleaning, sanding, moving stuff, whatever. And this was just all day pretty much up here working on this. But like I said, it was some of the cooler footage that I had for the entire move. And here you can see the flex duct running throughout the attic. We, tried to keep it to the edges as much as possible so that we still had room in the attic to store stuff. This will be my studio, so we're not storing a ton up here, but like our Christmas trees and things like that, we're hoping to keep up here. But you can just see where it's running to all the different vents, because we had like 10 vents-ish running. And so pretty funny looking, but pretty awesome regardless. Oh yeah, I don't like heights, by the way. This episode of the Moving Vlog is brought to you by our Discord server. Over at discord.gg/EposVox, you can get help with your stream. You can chat with me and our wonderful community of tech enthusiasts, gaming enthusiasts, retro nerds, all sorts of things. Learn the latest tech and gaming news, including niche retro stuff, streaming stuff, hardware stuff. We give away games, we give away assets for your streams. We let you feature your stream if you're in the right conditions. And we have things like our awesome Discord game night that we just had this past Saturday for Halo 3. We do a lot of different games, have a lot of fun with that. That's a monthly thing. We may pick up the pace a little later. We got a lot of stuff coming, including, if you make it into one of the secret groups, you already saw one of the major releases we're doing for this year. So head on over to discord.gg/EposVox and chat with us. We'd love to see you there. All right, so this is the part of the studio progress that I was very, very excited for, because other than the paint, it would make the most difference between it looking like a garage that was gross and looking like an actual studio or a place that I built, and that was laying the carpet. First and foremost, though, we had to seal up the concrete, where the concrete met with the foundation and then the wood boards. There was a lot of gaps and a lot of potential for bugs and moisture and whatever to get into. A lot of you all expressed in the comments concerns about moisture or humidity or whatever, and overall that's not an issue, but just to be safe, not that this would survive anything too catastrophic, but just to be safe, I went ahead and used some heavy-duty silicone caulking to seal up as best as I could all of the cracks and crevices and little spots where stuff could get in or out through this little concrete barrier here, all the way around the garage, which admittedly took a little while. I couldn't do as good of a job as I wanted, like with the upside down part, just because gravity was not making the silicone stick very well, but I think I did a pretty good job, and honestly it dries clear, so by the time I was done you really couldn't see it anyway. And the next day it was time to start laying the carpet. We used some heavy duty, what's considered permanent double-sided tape, which, oh boy, it survived even some water later on. Like, it is heavy duty double-sided tape, and laid it out in 4 quadrants. So to catch you all up to speed, we ended up going with carpet tiles for this place. Now theoretically, if we had more time, more money, more experience, we could have gone with or hired someone to go and do a full actual carpet lay here, which would have involved probably building a subfloor and then the carpet padding and the carpet itself. We didn't have time for that. I didn't have the money for it. And honestly, sitting in it now, there wasn't a need for it. Instead, we went with carpet tiles because they're modular, they're easy to pull up and clean, and they were much quicker to lay. And so we went with a local place that basically kind of sells the excess from major office renovations and things like that. So I couldn't get, without paying way too much, an entire set to cover the entire garage. So while I could have gotten close, I actually just went with 4 quadrants of 4 different types of tiles. 2 of them are blue, one's a little bit more gray than blue, and those are in opposing corners. And those are in the gray sections to just kind of add some color to the room. And then there is a kind of pinkish magenta-ish section in the blue corner of the studio to help give some color contrast. And then there's a darker section back by the storage area, the AC unit, and the workbench, which IMO kind of helps cover up some of the, footprints or whatever I might track in while still looking pretty nice. It may look kind of janky to some of you, but that's what we ended up going with. Here you can see we are plotting out where all the double-sided tape goes. We basically build X's in each of the quadrants and then also kind of line the outsides. You don't need every single piece of carpet to actually have double-sided tape on it. You just need like like relaying so that you have a good strong border of them locked into place and the rest stay into place. And then if any keep coming up for some reason, you can tape those down too. But so far I have not had any issues. They are locked in here quite nice. And the other benefit of using carpet tiles on the concrete here is I don't need floor mats anymore for my chairs, especially since I have everything on wheels. A big advantage of the carpet tiles was that they are thin and the carpet is comfortable enough on my feet. Like I'm walking on concrete, so it's not amazing on my feet, but you know, it's comfortable enough for me to walk around on without shoes should I desire, but it's thin enough that wheels aren't going to sink into it and stands aren't going to sink into it. And given that a goal of the studio for mine was to have everything on wheels, including my camera tripods, my video monitors, my lights, my chair, all of that kind of stuff, either on wheels or on the little carpet coasters for furniture. Even my B-roll table is on coasters so I can slide around. This is the perfect kind of carpet for that because it's super thin. I'm not going to damage it with my chair wheels. I don't need a desk or a floor mat or anything like that. And so that was a huge advantage. So my dad came over after work one night and our goal was just to lay the carpet throughout the whole night. And it took a few hours. It took quite a while, but we just started in the corner, built outwards, started in the other quarter, built inwards. And what we ended up doing was the first two quadrants that we laid are actually thinner than the back two. Again, the goal was to divide the room up by purposes. So the quadrant you're seeing me lay now is essentially the retro room recreation. It's the retro corner. And so that was its own quadrant of carpet. And then from there, we laid other colors. So this one is the magenta tile, and we just went with the random one so that there were no repeats here, which I think looks pretty decent. It's very clearly office carpet, but it's not going to, like, it doesn't look like super amazing, but I think it fits my kind of retro aesthetic overall, and it's not going to be on camera done anyway, so it's not a big deal. And then over in this left-hand quadrant is where we started laying the carpet for my desk setup. And so this was, you know, my desk area, my tech stuff, where I work. And this was a darker kind of blue layout that we started laying. And so we kept it even with the other pieces. And since the wall doesn't seem to be square at all, so we had to go back through and cut some thinner pieces to fill in the gaps here. But for the most part, it worked really well. So this took, like I said, quite a few hours to get everything laid. These are roughly 24 by 24 inch pieces. They're a little bit smaller than that. And they just have arrows to go for where you want them to lay. And we just got each of the quadrants laid. As I mentioned, they were not completely even. The first two that we laid on one half of the room are thinner than the back two because we had more carpet tiles for those back two rows, so it just made the most sense. And so it's not perfectly even to where I have the furniture laid out, but I'm going to be moving stuff around all the time anyway, so it's not a big deal. But a few hours later here on this night, we've got carpet throughout the entire studio. And like I said, boy, it looks freaking great. In the footage, I don't have video of it all completely done. Actually, yes, I do right here. Video of it all completely laid. And that plus the walls and the ceiling, of course, being painted. Like, if you're not looking at the garage door, you don't really know you're in a garage anymore. This is an actual room. And it does so much to bring the space together and to actually make it look like something cool. And I am just so freaking stoked that we were able to do this. You get to see me walking around, checking it out. It actually looks nice, clean. My own space that, you know, we made that was completely from scratch, pretty much custom for me, which I absolutely love. And I am just so incredibly happy with it.